Here's the experience of, I think, most people, if they're looking at Christians today, looking at Catholics today. We do Lent and we rock it. Easter happens, it's Easter Sunday, we celebrate the resurrection of the Lord. Then Monday comes. Monday of the octave of Easter, Monday, the day after we've just encountered the risen Lord. And what are we doing? We're just back fishing again. Like, we just go back to normal. And I think if we look at our own experiences, if we look at our experiences growing up, often in our churches, we go back to the boats and go back to fishing, and it's just like everyday life again. And there's something about that, right, which is problematic. And we're supposed to be, in the Easter season, overcome with Paschal joy. But really, it just seems like we're all resolved to like worldly labors. And part of setting our minds and setting our hearts on the things of heaven is creating space and really, really receiving the gift and responding to the gift and the meaning of the resurrection of the Lord, and not just going back to living life like everybody else does. And here's two parts, at least, of why this is problematic. First of all, is like, what are our greatest tools and our most, if you will, convincing arguments in evangelizing the world, in bringing people to know Jesus and know who he is and know his goodness and know his victory and know that when he says, fear not, like, we can listen to him. And when he says, peace be with you, we can really receive the fullness of that peace. Like, what are some of our most persuasive arguments? It's our hope and it's our joy, and certainly it's our charity. And so where do we receive the hope? Where do we receive the joy? Like, what are these rooted in? These are rooted in Christ being risen from the dead. Like, indeed, he is risen. Hallelujah. And so if we just celebrate the resurrection one day, it's a nice day, it's a good day, but then we're kind of just going back to living the normal grind of everybody else, with the same sort of complaints and the same frustrations and the same disappointments, discouragements, etc. When we try and talk to people about Jesus, it's just going to be undercut by the lack of joy and the lack of hope, which ultimately is a lack of really living as what Pope John Paul II calls an Easter people. This is really problematic for us, bringing the Lord to people and bringing people to the Lord. The second is this, and it's this pastoral advice that a kind of an older priest gave, and he gives it to married people or to families. Try to like really prioritize going on a family vacation when you can. Like, really, really like do the work and sacrifice to be able to make this happen. And why do that? Because you need to like create these really, really good memories and have these really, really strong moments together, because these are going to help like encourage you and strengthen you when difficult times come in the future. Like, one of the ways we're going to be able to sort of manage to keep going forward with strength when things are hard is like these memories and the bonding and like the gifts received during these times, in this case, a family vacation. And I'd say that's something similar for our encounter with Jesus and a relationship with Jesus as we continue this pilgrimage through life, is that the difficult times are going to keep coming, and hard things are going to happen, and sufferings are going to happen, and like, we're just going to be encountering all these sort of mysteries. Like, where do we receive the grace to really like navigate these waters and to keep pressing forward with joy and with hope? I'd say part of this, and probably an essential part of this, is through like the hope again and the gift that is given to us in Easter, in the entire Easter season. Like, we really need to create space and prioritize and do the work of like really understanding like what Easter means, and really, really celebrating it well, and really, really receiving the fullness of the hope and the grace that's offered in this season, because we need this for the road to come. We need this for what's going to keep happening. And so this really deep encounter with the risen Lord, particularly in the Easter season, this is going to really strengthen us personally in our relationships, etc., as we continue to go forward. Let's continue to pray. Let's continue to allow the Lord to call us deeper into the encounter of the risen Lord, so that again, like, we may receive the grace, the joy, the hope that he offers us, and may from this be able to journey well through the difficulties of life and bear an authentic witness to what it means to be a follower of the risen King. So thank you so much for watching. Happy Easter. Remember, we are pilgrims on this earth. Somos peregrinos poco a poco, little by little. Vamos a llegar. We're going to make it. See you next week.
Same thing, Ironman triathlon. I was watching this on a Sunday afternoon or something like this, and there are these two women again, and they were racing down this home stretch, and Sean Welsh was in the lead. And at one point, Sean Welsh, her legs once again just gave out. She kept falling to the ground. Get back up, keep going. Get back up, kept going. Fall, get back up, kept going. And then another woman, Wendy Ingram, was coming from behind, and it was within maybe 50 feet of the finish line. Sean Welsh falls to the ground. Wendy Ingram tries to step out of the way. She falls to the ground. And they both try to get up. And it's one of those incredible moments where it's just like they couldn't get, neither of them could get to their feet. And so in the last 20, maybe 25 feet of this race, Wendy Ingram just starts crawling. And then Sean Welsh sees her crawling and starts crawling after her. They both cross the finish line, crawling to basically, they crawled not to win. They crawled across the finish line to get fourth and fifth. Like this battle, the race was already won. The race was, for them, the race was already lost. They're professionals, right? They're elite athletes. You want to get first, or at least on the podium. They were doing all of this for fourth place. The quality of being able to bear adversities, or even this, a calm endurance of misfortune. Long suffering, that's what it is to wait patiently, is the ability, the capacity to bear adversities and the calm endurance of misfortune. And so that's why, the first reading today, St. Peter, he quotes David in the Psalms, and he says this, when everything looks bleakest, I'm going to still have patience. When everything looks bleakest, I'm going to have this long suffering. When everything looks bleakest, I'm going to bear adversities. In fact, here's what he says. He says, my flesh will dwell in hope because you will not abandon my soul to the netherworld. Basically, my flesh, even in death, I will wait patiently. Even in death, I will be able to bear adversities. Because why? We need that. We need this, right? We need this ability to bear adversities. We need this ability to wait patiently, because how many times in our lives will we look around and say, I didn't think it would be like this. Like, this is not what I planned. I thought I'd be winning. I thought life would be a little bit more full of success than it is full of this failure. And the battle we're all going to face is the battle, maybe the hardest battle, which is discouragement. I thought I'd win, but I didn't win. I thought I'd have success, but I didn't have success. I thought I'd have this relationship, and I don't have it. I thought I'd have a life like this, and I don't have a life like this. We have to remember, as Christians, those of us who follow Jesus, we have to remember that there are more important things than winning. That as Christians, we have to remember that there are more important things than success. As Christians, we have to remember there are more important things than grades, right? There are more important things as Christians than getting the life we want. Even, we have to remember that as Christians, there are more important things even than life. And that most important thing is not getting what I want, but becoming who God wants. The most important thing is who we become in the process. Not winning, not success, not having the life I wanted, but who we become in the process. Because we realize Christian hope is not rooted in getting what I want, or it's not rooted in any particular set of outcomes. It's not waiting patiently until I get what I asked for. In fact, Christian hope might mean waiting patiently in the opposite. It might actually mean failing. Christian hope actually might even mean failing publicly. Because I know this might even be necessary for those who are used to winning. In fact, it might be necessary for those who are used to winning publicly. That we might need to actually fail publicly. Because if I'm used to winning publicly, then there's so much tied up in perception, right? So much of my worth is tied up in image. So much of our worth is tied up in I'm loved as long as I win. Even how we see ourselves, like, okay, I believe I'm worth loving myself as long as I win. And so we might need, in God's mercy, we might need to not just win publicly, we might need to fail publicly. And in the midst of that, though, not to be discouraged, not in the midst of that to be just experience disappointment or experience crushing, but to hold on to hope in the middle of that. That's why patiently waiting is so important. I've never shed a tear at someone's comeback story, but those who have endured, even when they've already lost, they're the ones who give us a glimpse into greatness. Because you and I know that the person who chooses to hope, chooses to endure, chooses to continue to wait patiently, even when they lost, they face disappointment, they face discouragement. And they faced it with courage, because it takes courage to hope, right? It takes courage to wait patiently. That when the voices start saying, like, we've already lost, why keep going? You've already tried and failed. Why try again? Listen, this mattered a lot to you and it all collapsed. So why should you even care? That's a great question. Why? Why choose to hope? Why choose to wait patiently? So First Peter, he gives us the answer. And the first thing he says is, he says, he's writing to Christians, and these are Christians whose lives have been turned upside down by Jesus. These are Christians who have suffered a lot because of their faith in Jesus. So he first reminds them of their worth. And he says, listen, he says, you were ransomed by the precious blood of Jesus Christ. This is your worth. This is how much you matter. That God himself literally bled for you. This is how much you're worth. And he goes on to say that Jesus was known before the foundation of the world, but he's revealed in the final time for you. Yes, God's been known always. Just look around. But he's finally revealed for you. And he goes on to say, who through him we believe in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory. Why? So that your faith and hope are in God. Now, he highlights this. We believe that this one who died, and it all seemed lost, and it seemed like it was completely over, and God raised him from the dead so that now your faith and hope are not in your strength, they're not in your plans, they're not in your talents, so that now, because Jesus has conquered death, because when everything was lost, he redeemed everything. You can have confidence, you can have hope, you can wait patiently because your faith and hope are in God. This is the crazy thing is, we don't, as Christians, we don't hope that things will work out the way we want them to. We trust that regardless of how things work out, God will be there. Regardless of where the tracks lead or where the bushwhacking leads, God will be there. We trust that even when all is lost, and we look around and say, life looks nothing like I thought it would look, God will be there. Because Christian hope is not thinking that all will be well because I'll get my way. Christian hope is trusting that all will be well even when I don't. So here's these two disciples on the road to Emmaus. And even when things had turned out in such a way that there was no way forward, we might as well leave, we might as well go back to Emmaus. There's no chance of winning. There seemed at the moment to be nothing to hope in. There was nothing to be patiently waiting for. What happened? Well, God opened a tomb. When it seemed like there was nothing else to look forward to, God emptied a grave. That when there was nothing to wait patiently for, God took what was dead, he took what was lost, he took what was over, and he brought it to life. And he found it. And it's a new beginning. And it was right in front of them. This is the crazy thing. It was right in front of them. And they didn't see it. And this is the key for us, for hope. This is the last thing. This is the key for us in hope. Hope is a gift, but it's also a choice. Hope is rooted in more than a wish, because we realize this. If all they knew was, yeah, Jesus was a prophet and then he died, there wouldn't be any reason for them to hope. But remember what the story says. They're walking, they're downcast. They had hope, they lost hope. And they even tell Jesus, who's disguised in this moment, right in front of them, they tell him, yeah, but even some members, what astonishes us is some members of our party went to the tomb this morning and the tomb was empty. Not only that, there were angels who said that he rose from the dead. Not only that, but two other people, Peter and John, we're assuming, had gone to the tomb and they found it just like the apostles, just like the women had said. Not only that, but Jesus had said this was what's going to happen. I'm going to die. I'll rise from the dead on the third day. When it was happening, this is the thing. They had a reason to hope. It was right in front of them and they didn't see it. This is true for us too. We have a reason to hope, but so often we don't see it. That our minds, our vision is so captivated by the loss. Our minds and vision are so captivated by life, so much further to go, that we fail to realize that God is here right now. He's not just there at the finish line. He is there on the second to last lap. He's there on the second to last round. He's there right now. But we can miss it. What's right in front of us, just like the two disciples missed Jesus, who was right in front of them. So what do we do? This is, as I said, is the last thing. But it's a practice that I think is going to be so helpful for all of us. And the practice is something we recommend to every person who's ever tune into this virtual Front Pew Mass, every person who's ever gone to University of Minnesota Duluth, St. Scholastica, is like when you pray in the morning or in the evening, what we need to do is we need to see what's right in front of us. What I mean by that is, where is God right in front of us? Where is God in our lives right now? Like, what are the gifts? What am I grateful for today? Just even to list on a regular basis, in the morning and in the evening, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for this morning? What are 3 things that I'm grateful for this evening? Because you can look at that and say, oh my gosh, God, you are here. That in when all seems lost, you're present. That when I'm tired of waiting patiently and it seems like I should quit, you haven't quit and you haven't abandoned. And the race actually isn't over. You have to stop and note, okay, this is what God has done today. Well, that gives us a reason to hope today. And we stop and write those things down and say, this is what God has done today. That also gives us a reason to hope tomorrow.
I'm Father Michael Dyan. I'm pastor of St. Michael's in Snohomish, Washington. As a pastor, the harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. There's such a thirst and such a hunger for God in people's lives. And so often, I am not able to provide what I would love and want to be able to provide for people and spend time with them in the way that I want, because I'm worried about our finances. I'm worried about our maintenance. I'm worried about finding resources. There's so much to do and not enough people to do it, and sometimes not enough money or resources to do it. A lot of the infrastructure of the Archdiocese of Seattle today was built for a church that existed 60 years ago. We're facing very different realities than we were in that time, sometimes even longer, sometimes 100 years. We are not a church so that we can keep up our infrastructure. Our infrastructure, all of our structures, all of our institutions are meant to serve our mission. Pretty clear that what we're doing right now as a church is not necessarily working in our culture. You know, I think back to like who I went to school with, who I went to youth ministry at in high school, and like how many of those people are practicing anymore? How many of them still have their faith? How many of them still really know Jesus? Not a lot, and I see that in my own parish community. Like how many of the kids going through our school and through our sacraments today are going to still be, you know, practicing and proclaiming the faith in 10 years? It's like we need to do something different. And what is that going to be? Partners in the Gospel is a way for us to reevaluate and then refocus for the mission that Jesus gives us. What does Jesus want to do here? And if we're not seeking that first, if we're thinking about our own interests first and what we want it to be, we're missing the entire point of what the Lord wants to do here. We're missing the point of the gospel. Change is hard. Transition is hard. At the same time, it's like, well, what are all those things for? What is the entire parish for? It's to bring us to the Lord. So why do this now? Why wait?